What's going on? It's your boy Hey Haynes. It's another installment of Facts Over Feelings, or your feelings at the door, so we can get to the facts part two. Your boy was going off, and because I get charged, man. So let's get right back into it. We were talking about color, and what I wanted to say to help to elucidate this concept. When we're talking about color, I want you to understand that color is the way that nature displays order. Let me say that again. Color is the way that nature displays order. If you were to go outside and the sky was pink, or the grass was purple, or you seen an elephant and it was green, it would shock you, to say the least. It might sound crazy, but this is how it establishes order. Like most vegetables, if you garden, you know that a lot of vegetables start off green, and then as they ripen, the color changes to give you an indication of when to pull that crop. Okay, so we have to understand that color is the way that nature displays order. And so, like she articulated, and like what she posited in her thesis was that, look, from a mutation, from an abnormality, whatever, the opportunity had arisen where these supreme beings, or these scientists, or however we want to call them, or whatever we want to, characterize them as, this is when they took the opportunity to be able to manipulate human DNA, because the melanin was the protector. The melanin didn't allow the UV to split or to cause any damage to the DNA, or for it to be manipulated. You see, now that's important, because then it also talks about, remember, that even goes back. Now think of how it piggybacks even to this idea of us being sun worshipers, or some articulating that the sun is the actual God. Okay, now think about how she talked about, and how he even articulated in that video, how melanin can refract or detract light. It can block light if it chooses to. It is talked about in the Bible how we blocked or we ignored the Most High. How we can choose to absorb as much as we want, or as little as we want to. That's deep. But the point being is that it goes back to us understanding and accepting that we are light beings. All right. And, one of the things that, like I said, with this cross, or the fork in the road that is created, it comes about because we have totally accepted and we have totally submitted to the God complex that the European has nurtured for centuries. Okay. Through his literature, through his imagery. Okay. And so this is why we have to double down in those respects, and we have to call it out. We have to start questioning the individuals and the institutional framework, which are notorious for lying. Okay, they built an empire off of deceit. Okay, all right, and so even the things that like I said, isolate this before we go off back into blood. Like, what's big for me is we don't even question a lot of the science now. All right, especially if it's remember how we said everything is hidden in plain sight. I invite you to take a look at Joseph Campbell and all his research, how he talked about how we are illiterate in terms of reading the symbols, in which we need to become more adept at, because this is how our higher selves communicate, right? And so when you look at this, what they give to us, a representation of this so-called quote unquote planet, you go on NASA and they show you an image of the Earth. Now, many people may say, oh, well, okay, what am I looking at? What do I find? You don't see nothing wrong with that image. You don't see. Now, first off, they tell us that Earth is spinning on its axis at about 1,000 miles an hour. All right. Now, I don't care what type of high quality cameras they profess to have, these satellites or anything like that. I don't really care. I don't believe nothing that he has to say or nothing that comes out of his mouth. Because the reality of it is, I've seen a lot of pictures and what things look like when they're in motion. And if something's spinning on its axis at 1,000 miles an hour, there's no way you came up with a picture where the Earth looks like it stood still. Unless you're saying that the Earth is photogenic and is posing for its picture. And some people may say, oh, well, yeah, it can capture a still picture. Okay, even if I give you that, even if I let you give that, it's two other things wrong. One is the size of the continents. Okay? All right. So we already know that with Europeans, they associate size with importance. So why is it that the United States is about the same size as South America and almost the same size as Africa, when I know that you can fit about 4 United States in Africa? Okay, so now people might say, oh, well, yeah, they have to, they did some tampering, they adjusted the size of the continents, that's European white supremacy, blah, blah, blah. So you're still submitting to this idea that this man went out there and he got these instruments out there taking these photos and he's went to the moon. Oh, okay, another thing that's wrong with that. We know what accounts for the seasons. Isn't it the tilt? So you're telling me every time that NASA goes out there and takes a picture of the Earth, it's never on a tilt? That's what I like to know. You see what I'm saying? Pitch black. But yet the sun is so huge. You see, now he has the technology to go to Mars, but the moon is 250,000 miles away. But yet you go to Mars. I want to see you get back to the moon that you claim was dusty, When it's obvious that I'm living out here in the country, and you know how it is out in the country, sometimes the moon, especially on those full moons, can light up your whole backyard, bro. But that's what he said he landed on. See, the God complex, you don't even question it. Just like we're not gonna question. See, even he questions, look, when he even changes up his own science. Okay? Now, there are basic immunology is this. There is two type of reactions. There is a humoral reaction, which is basically what's termed as antibody mediation. Now I'll explain that. And then you have a cellular reaction, all right, which is really when you're doing organ transplants and blood transfusions. Now this is interesting. We're about to go into the blood because we touched on the light. A lot of people don't even know about the blood. So we're going to break this down. Now, this is why I say you got a lot of scholars go off. Like I even heard, young Pharaoh when he talk about, the rhesus monkey gene, all this different stuff. Okay, if we're going to use it as science, let's use it completely so that we get a full understanding of and what you will find out, it directs you toward more being a light being than anything else. Let me explain. When you're dealing with blood, we already established heme and globin. Heme being a light ring, organic ring, globin being a protein. What you also have to understand is when they talk about these blood groups. Okay? Now, they call it blood groups. You keep calling it blood type, but they're specifically called blood groups. A, B, and O specifically. Now, it's really three because you have A, B. O just means that you don't have A or B. And what is A and B? A and B are what's called antigens. Well, what's an antigen? Antigens are like these proteins mixed with sugars. Mostly sugar. They call them polysaccharides. Mostly sugars. So basically, antigen A and antigen B are these strands or this molecule that basically rises up off the surface of the red blood cell. Okay? So it's three main antigens that can cause the immune system to get into to have a bad reaction. And those three main antigens are A, B, and supposedly O, positive or negative, right? Now, this is misleading to a degree because when you look at the positive and the negative, only thing they're saying that positive and negative means rhesus. Okay, and I've heard a lot of YouTubers like, the rhesus monkey gene. That's what they named it after, but according to their science too as well, and this is why you have to always do deep research, they'll say that the rhesus gene is not just found in monkeys, it also was found in archaea, which outdates, supposedly, according to their science, monkeys and stuff like that, right? Because of archaea and bacteria are organisms that are way older, supposedly, right? So they will say that argument, so you have to be careful of that. And what you also have to be careful about is how they articulate it. It's called a blood group. So there's about, as much as they know, I believe between 60 to 600 antigens within the Rh group. It's just that the Rhd antigen is the most, will activate your immune system more, right? So A antigen, that A sugar, that B sugar, and that Rhd antigen sugar is what will activate your immune system. When those sugars are sticking up, because what you have to understand too is that the body creates antibodies to those, primarily because what happens is sugars, certain sugars are what? They, viruses and so-called viruses, bacteria and fungus have an affinity for certain sugars. And your body understands that. That's why your body has to keep them in check. And everybody knows about, candidiasis, the overgrowth of Candida albicans, the yeast. That's what we talked about, etc. That's why this is important, because most vaccines, people don't know the HPV vaccine was made from a yeast. I keep telling you this is going to be a fungus. That because fungus does what? You're the perfect host for fungus. We went over that. So, but we're going back. So the fact of the matter is that these sugars that come from the surface of the red blood cell account, and these are the ones that are most powerful. Doesn't mean that this is the only blood groups that you have in your blood. These are just the ones that the white man looks out for, the European looks out for when they're doing blood transfusions, right? Okay, and of course when they're tailoring medicines. Okay, they have to be aware of that. They have to be aware of these antigens. This is why it's so critical for our understanding of the foods and high fructose corn syrup and these sugars that feed other organisms. Okay, because see what happens is called, when I believe it's called hemolysis. Okay, I believe that's the term. But that's when you have antibodies attacking the blood, and it's a term called complement pathway. Okay, complement pathway happens when you send out these white blood cells, and they begin to puncture the membranes of your cells. Okay, and obliterate them. And they create what's called these immune complexes, and then you send macrophages out, or that eat up cells from your liver and your spleen, and then it rids it from the body. But then, so in essence, you begin to attack your own body when you get these antigens. And so that's why they're so careful when blood transfusions and organ transplants and stuff like that. So that's how you characterize the blood. Okay, not just meaning when you see your blood type like, oh, I'm AB, I'm A. You got many more blood groups than that. Those are just the ones that react. Okay, when you come into contact with someone who's like, so for instance, if you're A positive, right, you can't have blood from a B person, right? Because you don't have you don't have that antigen, so you're going to create antibodies to that. Right? And so you can have blood from somebody who's O negative. O negative is a universal donor because it doesn't have A, and it doesn't have B, and it doesn't have RHD. So it's O negative. No A, no B, and no RHD. Now, AB plus, if you're AB plus, you are a universal recipient because you can be A, you can get B, you can get AB plus, you can get AB negative. You see what I'm saying? So that's how they tailor that. All right? So it's about blood groups, not blood types. See, in the health field, they call it blood groups. All right? And so like we talked about before, those white blood cells, the three main types being granulocytes, lymphocytes, and monocytes. Granulocytes happens to be the most numerous of your white blood cells, right? They're the first line of defense. And the lymphocytes, all right, they're the ones that can become memory cells. So this is what vaccines hope to do. They hope to incite your own lymphocytes. Because remember, your blood is made in the bone marrow. And white blood cells, this is what a lot of people don't know, only survive for like a few hours to a few days. Sometimes some weeks. That's why you hope to encourage what's called your memory lymphocytes. That way, when you come upon the wild virus, your body knows how to tackle it. That's why they say that you have to continue to keep getting more shots, simply because they don't know what your turnover cycle is like, individually speaking. See what I'm saying? This is why you're going to have to take more shots, which was crazy. Like I said, when I was interviewing those college students, they were for Biden and for Kamala Harris, but were not for the vaccine. You can't have one without the other. With that being said, too, I like to talk about, and I'm going to jump back into that, but I want to make sure that I have time because I speak on bug out bags and all of that different stuff. And we talked about some of those things. I was like talking about the vitamins. We always talk about canned goods. But this is why I always, I say that people give you a little bit of information at a time, and maybe they want you to pay for it. I don't know. I think that may be what it is. But the fact of the matter is, it's just like, a lot of the things that I was going over. You get you a bulletproof vest. If there's about 400 million guns in the United States and about 350 million people that live here, there's more guns than people. Okay, so more than likely, you got to expect that if things break down, 90% of your confrontations are going to be people with guns. So doesn't it make sense to have a bulletproof vest? They got some I've seen some on eBay. I ordered one from eBay for like $160. I really wanted the Safe Life ones, $299, because there's a couple types of different armor. They only allow civilians to get the level 3 armor. And notice this, in some states, it's not, they don't allow that type of body armor. But in Michigan, they do. And what's so crazy, just bring that up. I was over a friend of my house, and, I had my vest on, right? And he was like, oh, man, he's like, ain't that illegal? And I was like, man, this is crazy. And it wasn't his fault. But we think about it. No, as long as you're 18 years old and you have no felonies, a vest is legal in the state of Michigan. And a lot of people don't know that. Like, we do that. Like, they train us to think that it's illegal or then we insinuate because only law enforcement have it that, only they're supposed to have it. No, you're entitled to that. You know, just certain levels, like level 4, you don't, but then you can get rifle plate armor because level 3 just protects against what's called soft armor. You know, that's like 40 cal 9, you know, 357, shit like that. You know, but when you're talking about rifle armor, 30-06, you know, you need rifle plates, you know, in addition to that. You know, that's how you can make up for not having level 4. You know, this is the other thing that I ask brothers and sisters. What's more important than water? Air. If you see a lot of the times in their movies, and you know, you see that gas mask, even as weird, you know, and it looks so weird, but if you notice, that's going to be essential. Nuclear biological attack. What if something like that happens? You know, for all those who think they stout and you know, they ready to take on anything and anybody, you know, you ready to deal with tear gas. It don't matter how many guns you got if you can't see where to shoot. I'm just saying. You know, so that's, you know, one of those things that people got to understand. And also other type of weapons. You know, you have to. So I was going to show you a couple of the things that I got in a couple of the defense. Like I told you before, I also had my bulletproof vest. I got that. I got a shield too. I like these shields. This shield is intended for soft armor too. So, you know, you find yourself probably barricaded in a room and you're trying to get an angle on who it is. These are nice to have, you know. I think those come in handy. So I also had one of those. This was my gas mask. I got a couple gas masks that I bought. You have to buy filters. Side note, I'm an information bug, so you know how I am. I just love information. But just think about if you were in a critical situation and you found yourself needing a mask, or you saw a mask and it was a World War II mask, don't wear them. They have made filters where it was asbestos in those masks. And also, if you got a beard like me, you know, you got to make sure no mask is fitted for beards, man. So you got to understand that too as well. So this one guy had this hack where he put Vaseline over his, soaked his beard in Vaseline, and it created that suction because, see, a quick little science lesson is air always goes to lower pressure. It goes from high to low all the time. So the illustration is like a tire. Like if the high pressure is inside the tire is going to go out because it wants to go to low pressure. So in the instance that the pressure is lower than the pressure inside the mask. So if your pressure is high inside the mask but lower outside, then that leak might not be so bad because it's going to be a small, you know, you're not going to get too much coming in. You know, you're just going to get your leak coming out. But if the pressure is higher outside of the mask and in, you know, that air is going to find its way into your mask. You know, so just a little science lesson on that. But, you know, you want to make sure that you have something like this handy. What if, you know, like you say, even if you just order one vest, what if you got to be the one as a man, especially to go protect your family, you make that sacrifice, you know, or you put it on your child, or, you know, they got ones that you can put in your children's backpacks. Okay, let's get with it. All right. You know, of course, I like little gadgets. This is obviously I like crossbows, but this also shoots BBs, you know, 8mm BBs. You know, they'll go through a 2x4 too. So for like small game, you know, rabbits and stuff like that, if you have to, you know, me mostly, you know how I get down, but you know, it allows you to be quiet, and you know, it's something that you might want to keep in your arsenal. Or if you like crossbows, which I do, I'm a big fan of crossbows, and you don't like having to pull them, they got this. I'm gonna show you something else. This is called an air javelin. All right, with CO2 cartridge in here, and you know, pump action, and it shoots arrows 300 feet per second. So you know, if you don't have the power to pull those arrows, and you know you need a weapon, you know, that's in silent, you know, or for gaming, you know, hey, this is what you may want. Rail, obviously, you know, you can put a sight on there. So haven't got opportunity to fire this bad baby yet, which I want to do, but the arrow is expensive. Like I said, this actually was, I was excited about the price. It was only $159, right? I bought it, but then, you know, accessories is what kill you. The CO2 tank, but the CO2 tank, it allows you to spit out at least over 2 dozen arrows. So about 27 arrows per CO2 cartridge. So which is pretty good, you know, but then the arrows, you know, you're only getting 6 for like $30, you know, so 30, you get 30, spend 30, you only get 6. So that's, you know, one of those things, man. So, but it's well worth it in my opinion. You know, I like investments like this because, you know, you have to be tactical, right? You know, of course, knives, axes. I like to double wield. Me, I'm a double wielder. You know what I'm saying? Night vision goggles. I have some night vision goggles coming. Of course, with other stuff you gotta have. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, that's a big part of that. All of this is about being prepared. You're stocking up on items, keeping seeds. Even avocados. When you go shopping for avocados, the seed is actually in it. You just make sure you clean it out, put them in bags. And just keep as much as you possibly can, and make sure that you are as mentally prepared as you possibly can, working out as much as you can mentally and physically. If they're giving you the time and you find yourself in a position where you can do a little bit more, do it. Because trust me, you will be blessed. And you think that a lot of people think that it's hard to come by, and it's not. It's just a changing of guard. When you begin to place a lot more emphasis on that it must be done, that there is no other alternative, that I can't negotiate with thoughts that compromise me or the standing of my family. Once you become unapologetic, once you become firm, once you become committed, and once you have convictions, then you find out that this was exactly what you were built for. This is exactly what you were built for. And even with the weapons, like I tell people all the time, even getting accustomed to guns, and even these brothers and sisters, learn how to get the right holster for your gun. You're not going to see, when people practice, they're out there shooting, and they're shooting the gun right. And you have to understand, especially in time, if you're legally carrying too, if you got the right to conceal or whatever, even if you're open carrying, it's going to be on your hip. You might have to draw, because you're not going to be the one, imposing your will on the other person. That will be decided by the villain. They decide when and where. You have to be reactive. You see, so you might have to pull from the hip. Practice pulling from the hip and putting shots on target. That makes a huge difference. Learn your tools. You understand what I'm saying? You might not even know if you got different size Glocks, but the same size Glocks, because that's the difference in Glocks, like the 17s and 19s. These all indicate sizes: full size, mid size, mini size, right? Subcompact, all that. A lot of the, especially like if you're dealing with a 40 cal and a 357, the diameter of the bullets is the same. So, and most of these Glocks, the magazines are interchangeable. You see what I'm saying? So you got additional magazines, right? And then you swap out the barrel, and then you can be able to fire those weapons, transition one, a 40 cal to a 357 and vice versa. You see what I'm saying? And that's, we got to understand these things. We got to be adept at all these things, because we get so lost in the music and the culture. How many times that I even been victimized by before I really became adept at learning the tool, taking away all the mysticism out of it. We used to be in rap songs, low clips. Nigga, it's not the 1900s, early 1900s. Most guns take magazines. Most guns that you use take magazines, not clips. Magazines spring load the cartridge into the barrel, right? Clips, usually go into a magazine like this rifles. And usually, clips come, are usually associated with rifles. And the magazine is built into the rifle, and the clip feeds the magazine. That's, you have a couple type of clips called like stripper clips, unblocked clips. Those stripper clips is what you seen Rambo with. It's just being fed into the magazine. That's a clip. You see, and so, even the terms, and this is one of the reasons why so many people look at us and laugh at us, because they know inside we're not doing in-depth research with things that dramatically affect us. Why shouldn't we know about it? Even if I didn't carry guns, why would I not know about them if this is what is compromising the security in my community? It was something interesting, and this just go off on a side note. I was thinking about this because I also seen this topic, and you hear about this. It was about HBCUs, and I heard this guy who went to HBCU, and he was like, I guess it was a couple white girls who had committed to some HBCUs, and then they were like, no black women are gonna be up in the skirt. Why would any educated black woman be up in the skirt when they know, the real ones know, that most HBCUs, if not all, were started by Europeans? Do you know that Spelman University is named after Laura Spelman Rockefeller? Do you know that Oliver Howard is who Howard University is named after? And he also served as president. He was a white Civil War general. Okay, most of them started off as theosophical schools. Okay, we know that Tuskegee had given black people syphilis. right? From 1832 to 1872, a guy became a whistleblower by the name of Peter Buxton. All right, and then Clinton, he apologized in 1997. But since then, families, and they allowed these black men to pass the syphilis along to even though the cure was in the early 1900s, even though they said in the 20s or the 30s or something, it was in the early 1900s, they knew that penicillin would do away with syphilis, but they wanted to see the effects of the white. See, and then do we know that syphilis was called Buba disease, B-U-B-A? That this is what killed many of the inhabitants of the indigenous of Hispaniola? You see what I'm saying? After years and years of colonization efforts by the Europeans. So this is nothing new. See, even right now, when we talk about, they conveniently enough talked about what? They talked about, this is the Spanish flu. This is just like 1918. Okay, let's go back. We look at, remember we talked about the truth is in the dates. 1918, what was also going on? Around that time, it was something called the Elaine Massacre. It was one of the NAACP's biggest cases. It was riots going on in about 20 states. So you mean to tell me, just like in 1980, just like almost 100 years ago, there were riots going on in every state, and almost in 20 states? There was a pandemic. Okay? Do we know also that most drugs was legal? Weed was legal then? Okay? Because then you have in 1914 what was called the Harrison Narcotics Act. All right? Which just taxed narcotics. It wasn't illegal. And so in 1933 or 1934, something like that, you had the Marijuana Tax Act. That's when they just taxed it. So all up until this time, so we act like something is new. Oh, we're making strides. That's what you hear people. You even hear Europeans say this. We're making strides. Learn your history. They're repeating. Why change it if it's working? And from those efforts, you're able to criminalize individuals, right? And all it took was a couple generations and it was all forgotten about. This is what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters. This is what I'm saying, that these brothers and sisters don't be digging deep. And then they compromise your welfare and they slow you up. Because then you can move past, you can stop debating, and you can stop thinking and hoping and wishing and thinking that these people who are nefarious to begin with, who are insidious by, in every fiber of them, in every measure of themselves, and every, by the fiber of, in every fiber of their being, that you can rely on them or depend on them. You can't do it. It's not going to happen. They're going against their own science. They already let you know that the theory behind vaccines, or an attenuated virus, or a weakened virus, if you will, which is 600 times smaller than bacteria. Once again, like I said, they're the only ones with the equipment that can see the virus. So conveniently enough, you're the only ones. I got to trust you. And this is what I'm talking about again, that God complex. Now I have to trust you that you've seen it. Remember, it's 600 times smaller than bacteria, which means your mask don't mean shit. But we know that. We know this is a humiliation ritual that the whole world is going through. Okay? And so, with all that being said, what do? You get on your game, you become even more aggressive, you become industrious, you become diligent, you recognize that, look, if you were going to go out the way you want to go out. Your life, to control your mind, the first one to the mind is the winner. Don't you want to win? I'm getting so tired of people talking about a corrupt system and wanting to participate in it. These brothers and sisters talking about, and invest in some gold. Look, they already showed you. Look, this is a project for most people if they don't want to entertain it. But like I said, you'll be doing yourself a disservice. Research the commerce costs. They control all trade. And you will be amazed to figure out what they consider trade. Okay? So, and they just haven't enforced it yet. They'll show you when they lock it down, just like they're telling us to African nations. Think globally. Right now, they're putting conditions on African nations to take contraceptions, to legalize abortion, all that, or they won't get any COVID aid. Okay? All right? That's what you have to understand. These are the conditions that are being set on these people because you have to understand what it's all about. It has nothing to do, and like I said before, man, we have to wake up to this. We have to wake up, start questioning the narrative, not allowing them to dictate to us what our worldview should be, all because we don't want to do the work up here. So I'm gonna clean it up. I got another video. I'm gonna be wrecking shop. I'm out here and I'm telling you that this is why blacks can be exterminated. This is why we can be exterminated. You see what I'm saying? And we talk about, even when I, briefly touched on that, the HBCUs and all of these are, they're responsible for helping to usher all of this stuff in. You see what I'm saying? We talk about these schools, black women complain about white women and why black men, go towards these white women. Think about it. 90% of the teachers from all the way up until high school are white women. These women are rearing black men. That's where the affection comes in, because they're directing, educating, and reprimanding them, disciplining them. All the while, then when they become mature, we wonder why they respect the mind of the white woman. And this is just facts over feelings. It's because they created an institution that would make sure that that would be the case. So that's why if you can teach your children everything that we know that we can teach them enough that they're ready to breeze through 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. We should not relieve that responsibility for someone to capture their minds when they're that young, when we can do that ourselves. That's ridiculous. Facts over feelings.